Hello everybody, OG Fatalis here, and today I'm redoing the video I made a while ago about which weapons, or all of the weapons being ranked. The main reason I'm redoing this is because back then I was a big dummy-dumb and didn't know how to scale weapons properly with each other, and that resulted in some really horrible scalings or placements, mainly the hammer, which for all you hammer fans, I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that. I just screwed up there. But yeah, so now I've redone them, actually making criteria, which are the following. So the main criterias, there's 6 of them. It is how much damage the weapon can output, and if a weapon cannot output that good of damage, then it's not doing the main job of a weapon, which is to dish out some damage. It's pretty why would you get a weapon that doesn't do damage? But anyways, yeah, so aside from just doing damage, there's also how much it hinders your movement, its moveset, which is the moves it can pull off, its range, and also its guard, and if it doesn't have a guard, it's LOGS, or lack of guard skill, which is what it will be titled in the actual ranking things. And finally, its difficulty or ease of use. So if a weapon is hard to use, it might get placed lower, but if it's easy to use, it might get placed higher. Usually a weapon that's incredibly easy to use won't be able to put out as much damage as some of the harder weapons, or it's not as fulfilling to use. But yeah, so those are the 6 main criteria, and other criteria which will be thought about are how it performs in single player and multiplayer. Weapon that trips up your teammates a lot will not be the best. But yeah, I already killed before I could continue finishing this. Now, of course, how it performs in single player and multiplayer won't affect the ratings that much, but I will also try to justify why I put each weapon in its specific category. But yeah, anyways, it's not a scale from 1 to 5 with everything except difficulty, 1 being very bad. So pretty much 1 means that part of the weapon sucks, and 5 means that aspect of the weapon is really good. Pretty self-explanatory, really, and with difficulty, the higher number is, well, the lower number is the better number rather than the higher one, which also might be explanatory, but yeah, it's pretty simple how this all works. Also, fortunately, no weapon got a 5 in difficulty, so the highest difficulty is about 4 on the list. Anyways, with all that said, wait, let's see how quickly I cleared this. Sorry, I just want to see. 3 minutes, okay, that's not bad. Alright, well, with all that said, on with the ranking. And at the bottom of our medieval barrel, we have the light bowgun. Before anyone gets mad, this is not a bad weapon. It's just not as good as any of the other weapons, and that's what puts it in this spot. Its main flaw is its DPS, which I had ranked at 1.5. And the thing is, this thing does dish out the least damage, mainly because if you actually want to use the high power rounds, it will take high power rounds take a long time to load into this, and its base damage is pretty low too. There are rapid fire shots. If you play your cards right, it can deal some good damage, but compared to every other weapon, it's not the best damage. Also, it's relatively simple to use. The only reason it's not that high, well, the only reason that it's not 1 is because it takes some time to get used to staying as far away from possible and learning dodge times. And with how much you dodge, that's kind of why I put this at 6 out of 5 in mobility. And of course it gets a 5 out of 5 in range, because, well, that's self-explanatory. It's a ranged weapon. Okay, how did that hit me? But anyways, this thing, once again, none of these weapons are bad. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but this thing has quite a few weaknesses, which I'll cover now. I've already gone over the pros, but here are the cons. Like I've already stated, its damage output is kind of sad. And while rapid fire is really useful, there's just so many better options for weapon types. And if you're going to use ranged, just use the heavy bow gun or the bow, which is slightly easier to use. Like, this is easily the easiest ranged weapon to use. So if you're new to the game, I'd recommend this if you don't want to play up close and personal. But if you're used to playing up close and personal in these sort of games, don't use the light bowgun. You'll just get yourself killed. It might be different in newer games, but in this game, this is for Monster Hunter Freedom Unite before weapons got buffed and stuff. You didn't want to get caught in the middle of an attack like that. But you want to stay as far away from the beast as possible, and you don't want to get cornered, otherwise you're dead. Now here's another problem I have with light bowgun, is the fact that it requires you to use weaker armor to be able to wield it, which isn't worth it in my opinion. Like, is it worth it for heavy bowgun and bow? While it's questionable for bow, it is absolutely worth it for heavy bowgun. Of course, they got rid of that in World, but I'll talk about World another day. Am I glad they got rid of gunner armor? Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of gunner armor, but enough about World. So yeah, the gunner armor makes you pretty much a weak point. While you have a ton of mobility with this to avoid getting hit, when you get hit, you're just practically dead. You might as well just dig your own grave at that point. But once again, I'm not saying this weapon is bad. It's just, personally, I mean, I actually like using this, but I like the heavy bowgun and the bow more than this. And it's just not worth it compared to all the other weapons. Like, it has too many drawbacks to using it. And with low damage, and with a low damage output, with that drawback you get from using it, there's really no point in sacrificing defense for this. This isn't worth the trade-off. And while, yes, you can actually dish out good damage with this, most ranged high damage videos or something, they're done with heavy bowguns. You never really see anyone solo anything with one of these. I used to use this instead of heavy bowgun for a while, because heavy bowgun just makes you so slow, but it's powerful. It has a reason to make you move that slowly. Also, one thing I want to say is that in descriptions of certain gun arms, it says that it was made to resist elemental attacks instead of physical attacks, and while it is true, it does have good elemental defense. In case you didn't know, all elemental attacks monsters have still deal raw damage, which you are not good for defending against. So you're still getting hit with a ton of damage from gunner armor, pretty much making it useless. Your elemental defense won't help you anywhere there. But yeah, anyways, I think I've finished what I need to say about this not so good bow gun. Also, oh yeah, here's my last gripe. When you run out of ammo, all you're left with is normal S level 1, which has by far the lowest damage in the game. You don't want to make it to this point, because this is where you'll most likely just fail, because you can't kill a monster in time, or you just die because you can't even flinch it at all. And trust me, when I say this has bad damage, I mean it has bad damage. Sure, it's infinite, but there's probably a good reason it's infinite. If you had to pay to get a limited amount of this stuff, it would just be a total waste. Waste of any, waste of space. I mean, another thing I like to praise about this bowgun for is the fact that you only have to throw money onto it to upgrade it. Take it either way, but that's all I have to say about this. Oh yeah, and also, with most bowguns, they perform better in multiplayer rather than single player, because in multiplayer you can at least get other players, so the monster's not only targeting you, and you can aim your shots. Once again, that's a better job for heavy bowgun if you're trying to break parts or deal out damage. Really, this weapon just doesn't have a place in Freedom Unite. I mean, it could just be considered the fast attacking weapon, but even then, I wouldn't recommend this thing. I mean, of course I got a good one. Like, Uranus Grenade is actually pretty decent for a bowgun. This is why I used it for this video, but still, I wouldn't recommend this weapon unless you're new to the game. Anyways, I'm done griping about this. Time to move on. And next up in the lower tier of weapons, we have the bow. Not the bowgun, just the bow. Now, the thing I have to say about the bow is, it's definitely far better than the light bowgun, but compared to the heavy bowgun, it just falls short. But enough about talking about how it compares to bowguns. When it comes to damage, it's actually pretty decent. It can dish up some nice damage. And it's really good for breaking Fatalis horns. That's where it really shines. And this one has kind of its accuracy is a little weird. I mean, it can be good. I mean, can you arc shot in this game? Nope, you can't do the arc shot. That's only 4 Ultimate, but yeah. Remember I hated this thing in 4 Ultimate? That's just because I sucked at the game. And you might have seen that I gave it a low score in moveset, and that's because technically it does have a moveset. It indeed has one. But the thing is, its moveset is actually not that great. And its lack of guard skill is just another aim assist thing. But here's this other move. Yeah, it's that also, actually that thing has less DPS than the light bowgun. Yeah, that actually has the least DPS of any weapon. Either it's that or the kick from blocking with a greatsword, if that's even this game. But yeah. Now the other thing I want to say about its moveset is, as you watch, I have different charge levels, or as you can see. So this is the heavy charge I've been using, but if I just tap the attack button fire is a quick one, and this can be rapid fired by repeatedly pressing Y or whatever your attack button is on mobile. And if you charge it once when it glows, it shoots 3 arrows at once. This doesn't do as much damage as, of course, the full charge, which is easily your best option when using coatings, unless you're using stats. And another thing, this thing is good for putting out status. This is one of the things this weapon shines with, but there are better status options in this game. As you can see, I can rapid fire, but really this doesn't, like, if you're trying to poison the monster or something, then rapid fire would be good. But if you're not doing that, then really you have no reason to waste your time rapid firing. If you want to fire fast, just do this. You'll get some clean DPS. This might be your best option when not using power coatings. But also you can get, once again, this weapon has good DPS, but it just falls a bit short. Now when it comes to multiplayer and single player, this is probably the best bowgun, or this is the best ranged weapon for single player actually, which is pretty good. But usually if you're trying to use the best weapons, you usually save your best weapons for multiplayer and G rank and stuff. Usually you want to do G rank with a teammate, so unless you're trying to be big strong man soloing G rank, obviously you're not going to do it. So another thing I want to point out though, this thing has charge time, but you have to find a point to charge and use it efficiently while constantly dodging, which makes it easier with the range of this thing. But once again, the whole problem with ranged weapons is the fact that you have half defense, which you can take it either way, but you could say it balances the weapons. Like, I wouldn't say light bowgun or bow would be broken if you didn't have to use gunner armor. That's just a dumb decision on Capcom's part. I feel like bow could easily have been used with Blade Master armor or gunner armor. Like, it could have been used with either one. But yeah, that might have been too complicated. So I mean, technically it is a ranged weapon, so take it as you will. But yeah, so this lands this weapon in 10th place. It just is far better than the light bowgun, but it just falls short. If you're just doing the village quest, I would highly recommend this if you're playing ranged. But heavy bowgun is also a good option, and sometimes light bowgun. But you don't want to solo anything. Like if you're fighting something like Basarios, which I did in 4U, it took almost the entire quest to kill it with my light bowgun. Because once again, it doesn't have good DPS. This has good DPS, and it's probably the most fun weapon to use out of the ranged category, but it can be a bit unreliable at times. So yeah, that's why it gets landed at our number 10 spot. Anyways, time to move on with our number 9 spot for the 9th best weapon or the 3rd worst. Take it as you will. And in the number 9 spot, we have the... the hunting horn. Now, I love the hunting horn. It's my main weapon in World. It's pretty useful when you're doing multiplayer, but when it comes to single player, at least in this game, it's really not good for single player. It has good damage, as you can see. 624 damage. Some of them even outscale hammers in damage, but not usually. But the thing about the hunting horn is it's falls short in the with mobility, and of course its logs or lack of guard skill. With me having to because you can't really find an opening to buff yourself before you go into the quest. And if you're thinking about healing yourself, you better forget it. Because you're not going to get an opportunity if you have the healing music to heal yourself with this. It's mainly good for buffing your allies, but for buffing you, I wouldn't risk it unless you have a clear opening or the monster's asleep. But yeah, this thing actually does dish out damage, and it has a decent moveset. I will give it that. Of course, though, I'm not sure. This doesn't do too much damage, but it is useful. And it can be used to start combos if you just do 2. But yeah. So the reason it's put down at 9th is just because of how poorly it performs in single player. And also how it limits your movements, etc. Its damage is actually pretty nice, but if I had the choice for a knockout weapon, this thing doesn't perform that well as a knockout weapon. Maybe it's just because I got a crappy one. But my own opinion, as a knockout weapon, this thing barely knocks anything out. The thing with knockout damage is all you can really do is break the head with it or get knockouts, and this thing rarely gets knockouts when I use it. Also, its strongest attack doesn't deal knockout damage either, so and also with how it's just so slow, really. Not as slow as the Great Sword, but the Great Sword, it has a ton of other things going for it. This thing probably has the worst LOGS for single player. Once again, LOGS means lack of guard skill, because this thing cannot guard. But yeah, it's poor performance in single player, which with the servers being down, well, they're not down, but with really anybody playing this version anymore, you're going to have a hard time finding multiplayer. So really, single player is the main thing you need to worry about right now. If this thing can't carry through single player, well, what are you doing with it? I mean, sure, if you're skilled, go ahead, use this. And also, it's really hard to pull off its main ability, which is why it got a high difficulty. And actually landing knockout shots with this is hard too. Either that or I just suck at the game, which I probably do. Anyways, I love this weapon, but just being honest, it kind of falls short when it comes to performance compared to the other weapons. Because if all the other melee weapons are a better choice, but if you don't use the hammer but you still want to deal knockout, I guess this is an option. If you like playing support, I'd recommend this because this is the only weapon that can play support in the game. Of course there is wide area SNS, but I've tried using potions with SNS, and it takes forever, at least in this game, it takes forever for you to get your shield back up after you use an item like that. So what's the point in doing it? You're just making yourself a target, but at least your weapon's unsheathed. I mean, I guess in multiplayer it's good, but this thing's just better when it comes to support. This is probably the best support weapon. But yeah, the one weapon that can play support really well, and it has decent damage too, so you can be the healer and the damage dealer. But anyways, now it's time to move on to our number 8 weapon. And this thing, it's a lot, once again, a lot better than the bow, but still kind of falls short. You see, the gaps from the gaps are actually pretty big with certain weapons, because each one scales up higher and higher than the other, but they're all good. They're all good. It just depends on your playstyle. If you want to heal, then use the hunting horn. If you want to deal damage, then use the greatsword or the hammer. You want to be the fast attacker, use dual blades or longsword. It's all up to you. It's all up to you. If you want to be safe, or if you want a headlock, use the lance. But yeah, anyways, let's just move on from here. And in our number 8, our number 8 spot, we have the sword and shield. Remember in my last video, it was like number, what number was it? Oh yeah, in the last video it was what can't I type? Oh yeah, it was in the middle last video, which was indeed a mistake. Because once again, if I said this thing was better than the hammer, I'm a complete fool. Yeah, I'm definitely a fool for putting this above the hammer now. I consider this to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Now, the reason I say this is because it can do a lot of things. It can play support, but barely in this game. And pretty much anybody with wide area can play support. I guess just because sword and shield can use items like this. See, I didn't have to unsheath my weapon, haha. But the thing this weapon really shines at is its status. That is the only thing it's really good for. Otherwise, everything else is just mediocre at best. Its damage, it's a bit... its damage, it has a lot left to be desired, but it does decent damage. Its attack speed and movement, it has really good movement. It's really status and movement, that's all it's really good for. Like, Death Prize is one of the best ones, and luckily I had this in the arena, but there are still other viable status options, and some of these have insanely high elemental damage too, like the Jodeci or something. Yeah, these have high elemental and high status. So if you're trying to dish out elemental damage, this is weapon for you, I guess. But other than that, it doesn't perform poorly by any means, but it's just okay. There's not much I have to say about this weapon, to be honest. And it performs well in both single player and multiplayer, but it just takes a while to kill things sometimes unless you're running bomber sets. And to be honest, bomber sets aren't that bad, like either sleep or... well, actually, a sleep one is good, but paralysis is also good, especially if you have teammates. If you have teammates with paralysis active, that's really good. You see, in this game with sleep, lots of the time someone will be in the middle of attack and it falls asleep, and then someone accidentally hits it and it instantly wakes up during its sleep animation. And sometimes people don't realize it's asleep. So, yeah, but anyways... paralysis really useful. Poison is okay if you don't have anything with paralysis but if you don't have anything with paralysis or sleep, just actually find Kushala use poison. But yeah. And it's really, really easy to use. There's only one weapon that's easier to use than this one, which I will get to around now. So yeah, anyways. SNS. A lot left to be desired, but can be useful. See how long it took me to put my shield up after I had that potion. About as long as it takes to put it up without the potion. Like it's really, the item ability is really bad in this game, and the guard also isn't that strong. But yeah. Anyways, I will now finally be moving on to our number 7 weapon.